How you all doing? Okay? Yeah? Some interesting conversations I've just had. People have seen Pulp not just once or twice, but many times, which is great. Don't forget, chance for you to ask a question at the end of this second section. Talking to a guy, I mentioned this bass player Herbie Flowers, who I saw and interviewed after his sound check when he was in this band with the classical guitar player John Williams back in 82, 83 in Stoke-on-Trent at the Victoria Hall. And Herbie Flowers was the guy that wrote the bass line to Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed in the 70s. And a gentleman at the back played in a band with Herbie Flowers for a whole week when he was a student in Brighton. Amazing, at the Brighton Dome. So I just want to quote from your book, Mark, if I may. This is from, but in the book, you're quoting from Pulp by Mike Wilson, which came out. Think about Pulp. Think about the common people. Think about Sheffield, factories and rain. Think of songs about bedrooms and bus stops. Think about people living on housing estates, going shopping in shopping centres, all staring at the same wallpaper at night. Think about disco, glam rock, house, techno and electro. Think about pop music, the electric beat that never dies. Think about people taking drugs at raves and nightclubs and snogging in the park on the way home. Think about a tall, thin man. He's at the front of the stage singing these songs about real life. Think about 70s fashion, Oxfam clothes, purple velvet jackets, brown corduroy flares, skinny pink sweaters, Joe 90 glasses, the worst matching shirt and tie ever made. Think about Jarvis Cocker. Think about pop music. Think about Pulp. I like that. Sums it all up really well, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, that's from a reprinted from a book, which was I don't remember the name of the organisation that published it, but it was a book for like adults who had difficulty learning to read.
I see.
And for some reason, they decided to publish a book about Pulp. Like this would get them enthused or something.
Okay, well, yeah. It sums up a lot about Pulp, and so we left you with this new contract, being a member without saying yes or no, to being full-time in the band and making A Different Class, 1995, got to number one. It won the Mercury Music Prize. It had 4 singles, Common People, Disco 2000, Sorted for Ease and Whiz, backed with Misshapes and Something Changes. So you mentioned that you all chipped in as writers and as contributors to making songs. Can you tell us how that all works? Do you go to a rehearsal room before you obviously go to the studio and you start jamming, or somebody says, oh, I've got this chord progression? How does it all work, Mark?
It's sort of basically not any more technical than that, yeah. It was usually everyone in the room with the equipment, just, everybody's just making a noise. Eventually someone realizes that someone else is doing something maybe a little bit interesting,
a bit better,
starts to do that with them.
And then you follow on.
People just, and we just muck around. And usually, you would do things thinking they were funny, you like humor in music. And then, someone else would think, oh, that's really good. That wasn't a mistake. You were not taking the piss. That was the good bit. And we had a ghetto blaster, so Jarvis would record whenever there was anything that seemed vaguely interesting. And then he would take those tapes home and sometimes listen to them, sometimes not. But eventually we'd somehow pick out bits that were better than other bits and think, well, this bit could go with that bit. Mm-hmm. And then,
build it
verse,
up from
chorus,
there.
Verse, chorus, middle 8, double chorus. That's your song. But with no lyrics.
Yes, I read that. Yeah. And like you put, a lot of people are amazed to learn that the lyrics come last. And given the personal nature of the content or the storytelling within the content, I would have thought that it was the other way around. So you're laying down a track and then he thinks, I've got to write some lyrics to this, and it's all got to fit in.
Well, I guess he always knows that's coming, and I'm sure he must put some thought into it. But while we're rehearsing, he's usually just just saying anything, usually nonsense. or repeating things, trying to find melodies and things like that. But he usually would, like with anything, he'll put off making any decision as long as he can. And he would often put off writing the lyrics until the night before he had to sing them in the studio.
Wow.
So with Different Class, we first did Common People and Underwear, and that came out, and then we went back in the studio to do the rest of the album. We did maybe 3 more songs, and we tried some other songs that weren't really good enough, and so we stopped and went away to write some more songs, and then we were demoing those songs in Sheffield, and the night before he sang on those demos, he was staying at his sister's house, had a bottle of brandy, basically stayed up all night and wrote lyrics to like 6 songs or something like that.
Wow. So he's a fast worker when he's got a deadline.
Well, it's just got to be done, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Put it off so long.
Well, I was going to say
that has changed lately. Like with the new album,
Yeah.
he wrote the songs. So he wrote the lyrics first.
Yeah. I'll come back to that. I was going to ask, though, how long does it take before that you're satisfied, or you're all satisfied with a song?
How long have you got?
Yeah. By the sound of it, you're pretty critical, obviously, but you do bits of editing, or quite a lot of editing, or quite a lot of rewrites, to use a different word.
Well, yeah, but I guess going into a recording studio was like an expensive endeavor. So it's good to know what you're doing before you go. So we had most of the songs together usually, but the lyrics was like his thing, and we just sort of left him to it. And it was often like a great source of entertainment. When you like sit there in the control room and he goes in and does the vocal, and you learn what the song is about for the first time.
And how do you know when a song is finished or right? Is that just a feeling?
It is just a feeling, as he so often says now. Yeah, I guess, in that period, with the group had sort of become very successful and had a major record label, and so we could sort of endlessly indulge ourselves in the studio, and did, for especially Different Class, and then even worse, This Is Hardcore, took months and months.
Common People. Am I right in saying that you wrote that you had 48 tracks in the recording studio for that, and then you doubled it up to make 96?
Yeah, at that period, I guess the top technology that was possible was a 48-track digital machine. But with that song, the 48 tracks went pretty quickly, and so they got another machine in and chained it together so it was in sync, so we had 96. But that still wasn't enough. There was still some bouncing down so you could fit more tracks in. Yeah. I mean, it sounds amazing still, I think, and obviously we don't remember what all those tracks are, but they obviously did something to make that such a magical recording.
When you finished that song, I mean, were you pretty elated? Do you think, this is going to do it?
Sort of. I mean, it was when we first started to write the song, it was noticeably very long, and had only 3 chords basically, and it was quite sort of sludgy. We recorded it quite early on in a Peel session, which later got released, and that's a kind of good representation of what that song was like at first. But the first time we played it, which was at the Reading Festival in '94, it had a really good response straight away, and so we felt like there was something interesting going on. And then when we started to record it, it was the first time we worked with Chris Thomas, and we just wanted to do a couple of tracks with him to see if it would work, what the relationship would be like. And it came together pretty quickly and sounded great. And so Jarvis was like, really insistent with the record company that they release it like straight away to sort of capture that.
Does it still irk that it peaked at number 2, kept off by Robson Green and their reworking of the Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody?
Yeah.
Sorry to bring that up, but
it obviously.
How deflating is that? Yeah.
It was a little bit disappointing, yeah, but for Pulp to be number 2 in the charts was amazing.
And that song recently voted the all-time Britpop anthem, I think, by Absolute Radio.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, that's a question I was going to ask, because I don't think Jarvis likes the term Britpop, does he?
I don't think any of us do. I never did, really. I don't know. It's
because it doesn't apply to you, really, because you're a mixture of so many different sounds.
I don't think anyone involved in that would probably didn't.
Well, even Oasis and Blur and Suede.
I wouldn't thought any of them were like behind that as an idea.
It was a media construction, was it?
Yeah, and I understand why people do that, because it's like, I don't know, like art movements, abstract expressionism. Someone invented that term to talk about a general trend in new art in that period. The painters probably hated it and thought that, Jackson Pollock thought that he had nothing to do with what Willem de Kooning was doing or whatever. It's just a way of sort of loosely defining an area. And I guess we all found it a bit unfortunate.
And
the nationalist aspects of it were a bit uncomfortable as well.
Yeah.
The red, white and blue and the targets and all that stuff. Not
to mention then the Gallaghers at number 10 in 97, but let's not go there. Sorted for Ease and Whiz, backed with Misshapes. Bit of a media row about Sorted for Ease and Whiz. In the Daily Mail, who would have thought?
It wasn't the Daily Mail, it was the Mirror.
Mirror, sorry, Kate Thornton.
Kate Thornton, yeah, bless her.
Who's a pop music sort of journo, isn't she? Really, or seemed to be.
Yeah, but at the time she was doing like that sort of what was it called? That kind of Matthew Wright sort of pop gossip sort of stuff for the Mirror.
They claimed, or she claimed, that it was promoting drugs, right?
Yeah, I guess there was the question of what single to release after Common People. And it seemed like Misshapes was probably the obvious one, but I think, trying to rationalise it now, I think we felt that was like maybe too obvious or too much in a kind of similar mode to Common People, so maybe it should be tempered with another song or something like that. So it was decided to do a double A side with Sorted for Ease and Whiz. And at that time, singles were released in 2 formats. Like there was a CD one, and then a week later there'd be CD 2, so that all your fans would go out again and it would keep it in the chart, so it's not just in the chart for 1 week. And it's a cynical, horrible thing, but kind of everyone had to go along with it. And so for this particular single, the designers that we worked with, Blue Source, thought it might be interesting to like have 2 completely different covers, and to have the cover for one single, the first one would be Misshapes, and the cover for the second one would be Sorted for Ease and Whiz. And they came up with this idea of a photograph of a wrap, a drug wrap, for the uninitiated, what the evil dealers would sell their drugs in, like the powder folded up in what in this case was a page of a magazine feature about pop. So there was this photo on the cover. No one really thought anything about it. We went to Top of the Pops to pre-record, I think, or maybe it was like known that the single would go in high at the chart, so we knew we had to be on Top of the Pops. It wasn't a question of being asked because it had gone in the charts. And so we went to perform Misshapes, I guess, but that was the morning when the Daily Mirror came out with the front page, "Banned this sick stunt." all about how the song was encouraging drug use amongst children and all this nonsense. And so I think we didn't. Well, I think we found out about it while we were at the BBC studios, and Island Records sent this guy who was like their tabloid controversies consultant or something,
PR guy, right?
to like advise Jarvis on how to respond to this
damage limitation guy.
Yeah, exactly. And he somehow like suggested or did this deal with the Mirror, whereby if Jarvis like consented to do an interview with them, then they would print the lyrics of the song, which would show that it's not encouraging drug use.
Observational, wasn't
and
it?
then the next day it was sort of all kind of over. But the song was banned by some radio stations, and that kind of thing always helps. And we had another number 2 single.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like
Simply Red were the culprits keeping us off number 1.
Really? Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Relax, isn't it, really? Disco 2000, your house was very small with wood chip on the wall. I mean, that is just so good, I think.
I can't take any credit for that. But I will take credit for the guitar.
Well, obviously, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, your intro to that was your bit then in that song. It's great. And I'll come back to what it's like to play live, because you've recently put a bit on Instagram of you doing that in front of this crowd who's going obviously wild. And Something Changes, a 4th single from... Changed, yeah, sorry. Making of a different class in 95. Every track a winner, really. It went quadruple platinum. And is it true you had to buy your own platinum? People had to buy their own platinum discs to put on their wall?
Not just platinum, but any of those...
Silver and gold too.
Yeah, those awards. I mean, yeah, it's very exciting when you get your first one. Yeah. And usually it's, silver. And then you get a gold one. Then you get a platinum one. And that's all great. But then we found out, or were told, well, actually, that they cost X amount of money, and that comes out of your royalties. and there was like a sort of like shopping list of like, how much your double platinum is, how much your triple platinum is. And so at that point we just sort of decided, well, let's not have any more of those. We don't.
How much were they charging? Can you remember?
I don't remember, no, but more than nothing. And once you've got single, double, triple, quadruple, you don't need any more, really. They were all under my bed in my parents' spare room for many, many years. Most of them still are. Yeah. And
so, this was your first album as a fully fledged guitarist within Pulp. Yeah. You all got along. It was all hardworking, and it all developed pretty smoothly in the end, yeah? And when you'd made Different Class, did you thought, this is a number 1 Mercury Prize winning album?
I don't think you're thinking those terms. No. When you're... No, we just tried to make the record that we wanted to make the best way we could do it. And in that time, it was just really easy. There was not a lot of like second guessing ourselves. We were working with Chris Thomas, who is like an amazing producer with like an incredible track record. It's kind of amazing to just even be in a room with him. And he spent a lot of time telling stories about Elton and John Cale and Pavarotti and all the people that
had he produced Queen or not? I've got a different Chris Thomas.
Not Queen, no.
Oh, okay.
No, just the Sex Pistols album, Roxy Music.
Wow.
His first job in the studio was he produced a lot of the White Album while George Martin was on holiday. He was like the T-boy in the studio at that point. Yeah, so he'd worked with everyone. It's kind of amazing to be with someone like that.
Right. So...
Yeah, it was just easy. We just didn't really think about it too much.
You then played Glastonbury that year, before the album came out.
Yeah, it was while we were still recording, and I guess not long after they asked me to join the group, I think. May even been before. Might have been before.
You were stand-ins for Stone Roses, which doesn't really matter. You should have been on the bill anyway, I would have thought. that was all helping to create momentum. You spend a lot of time rehearsing because you knew that you had to get that right, or that was going to be the biggest stage perhaps the band had played thus far?
Well, I mean, we had to rehearse because we were not planning on doing any concerts at that moment in time. We were like recording new songs. So we had to stop everything for a few days and rehearse. And yeah, obviously it was by far the biggest concert that we'd done. We'd never headlined a festival before. It was going to be televised on the radio. I mean, the good thing is there was no expectation really, because no one that had bought a ticket for that concert knew we were going to be there. So that sort of took a bit of pressure off, but we were terrified.
Yeah, terrified. All of you, not just yourself?
Yeah, I think so.
How long did they give you to play the set length? About an hour and a half?
I guess it was about an hour and a quarter or
on
something.
the main
like
stage?
That. Yeah.
Right. And you hate camping as well?
I do hate camping, yeah. I hate music festivals, if you want a full disclosure. Yeah, I hate camping, and we did have to camp because, I mean, we were asked, it was 8 days before my embarrassing diaries told me that we found out that we were playing there, or agreed to play there. So we didn't have a lot of time to plan it. And by then there was no accommodation available in the area. We thought it might be a bit sad to do a concert like that and then just get on a bus and drive back to London. So we sent the roadies out to buy a couple of big tents and maybe 10 matching sleeping bags. And we got like permission to pitch our tents in the VIP area backstage.
Next to Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, Oasis, Robbie
Well, they
Williams.
weren't staying there. They were just passing through.
Yeah, but you met all of them. There's pictures in the book. Yeah?
I didn't meet them all.
No?
I took pictures of them.
Were you fans
Some of them I met.
Led Zepp? Yeah.
What?
Led Zepp. Were you a fan of Led Zeppelin ever?
Well, I wasn't like a massive Zepp head.
No.
But yeah, some of their records I liked. When I was at school, there was, you know, me and my one other friend at secondary school were like the odd ones out. It was a boys' school. Everyone either liked Dire Straits or Iron Maiden. And then when you got into the sixth form, which I didn't go into, they had like a record player in the common room, and they all listened to Led Zeppelin and Hawkwind while they were playing like Dungeons and Dragons or something. So that was most. I mean, I knew they knew what Led Zeppelin was.
So what was it like walking on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people in Glastonbury, 1995?
I'd be lying if I said I could remember.
Okay.
But I do. My memory is of not enjoying the concert very much. I guess we were nervous. We were playing kind of stupidly, playing songs that no one had heard, which is not what you would normally do headlining.
From different class?
Yeah, songs that we were recording that no one had. It was the first time we'd played them publicly.
But didn't they grab the people straight away? They obviously
but we didn't know it at the time. We were just concentrating on playing them right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess it was like the first time on a really big stage, and we hadn't sort of realised that if you're on a big stage, you can still be like close together. You don't have to like spread out and fill it. So it was sort of disorientating, and it was windy, so the sound wasn't great, and it just didn't seem that good until like we got to the end and played Common People, and the audience were lit up, and we saw like how many people there were there, and like how far it went back up the hill.
It's an interesting.
Kind of seemed at that point that it had been okay.
Interesting point, because would I be right in thinking that those big festivals with a quick turnaround from one act to the next, much better than it used to be, but you as a band don't get to go and do a full sound check like you would in other venues.
No,
so
there was no
those first few chords and notes or first song, you must all be wondering, how is it going to sound? Can you hear each other?
Yeah, and you should, often you can't, or you can hear someone else more than you want to. Usually Russell.
Is there a chance to put that right? Once the first song's over?
But in those days it was just a matter of like shouting.
Yeah.
To the guy doing the monitors at the end of the stage.
Yeah. What's it like when you play the intro to Disco 2000 on the guitar? I would think that would be amazing. You don't look sometimes from the footage I've seen terribly excited, but there's some massive power in that guitar.
I don't know. I'm not an overly expressive person. It's just what I don't know. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
It's just the bit I do in that song.
But it's great.
Gets everyone's attention.
But did you come off adrenaline filled either on that gig or most of the other successful gigs or gigs since? You must do, mustn't you?
I don't know.
You must get a buzz playing live.
We don't run off the stage and start high-fiving each other and stuff like that.
No.
But it's.
You can tell if it's been brilliant and if it's just been okay. You what? Sorry.
It takes a while to fall asleep the night of having played a concert, and I guess that must be adrenaline of some description.
The other thing I always think, I'm a music fan, obviously, but and I've played in a couple of covers bands, but not very much. But when you're...
Did you do any of ours?
No, we didn't, actually, sadly. I can't remember what we did. We did a Coldplay. You're trying to build a song up from demo form and then building it again and then rehearsing it. Then you're going into the studio and record it. Then you go out on the road and play it live, hundreds, maybe thousands of times. And in the process of making an album or any song, does it go around your brain all the rest of the day when you get home and you might wake up at 3 a.m. and it's going around your brain? And
sure, yeah. But
that's a good sign, but maybe annoying too.
It can be annoying, yeah. And I have that with all music, really. At the moment, I really like this band Geese, who are suddenly getting a lot of attention. And there's a song of theirs, I just said theirs, didn't I? Like I was one of the Beatles.
Yes. Take care, beware of dirt.
That was unusual. There's this song of theirs, I usually do wake up during the night. And it's the last couple of weeks, as soon as I wake up, I can hear that song in my head. It drives me crackers.
Does sometimes you hear a song of your own that you're still working on and think, what can I add to it in the middle of the night? Paul McCartney famously thought he dreamt the melody, didn't he, to Yesterday?
Yeah. When you're working on something or creating something like that, then, you do. But usually, by the morning, you've forgotten it.
It can be so full on, though, creating music, creating art. I don't know whether people realise how much goes into it these days.
Oh, it's terrible.
So you did Glastonbury, and then, of course, you had the Brit Awards. Shall we skip that, and maybe you'd like to ask a question about that?
What do you want to know about the Brit Awards?
How you dealt with it at the time, because the police arrested Jarvis and kept him in a cell overnight. And you famously got Bob Mortimer as a solicitor to help him out? From Vic and Bob?
That apparently did happen, yeah.
Did you know that?
Well, he offered his services, I don't know. I think he did go to the police station with him. I don't know. Does everyone know what happened? Okay.
It's a 9-minute version of Earth Song. I looked at it on YouTube earlier.
I mean, the first thing I knew about it was him getting up and walking towards the stage, and you saw what I saw. And then afterwards, I guess, after he came back and sat at the table, our table was right next to the walkway that went onto the stage, and there was absolutely no security. It's kind of unfathomable. But they just walked on, and then he walked back to the table. And then, people are coming up saying, "Oh, that was amazing, well done, Jarvis," blah, blah. But then I guess someone sensed that, maybe this wasn't actually that cool, and that we should maybe just go back to the dressing room and see how this is going to play out. So we all went back to the dressing room. We just having a drink or whatever. And then the tour manager came in and said, like, oh, well, so the police are going to arrest Jarvis. And he's going to go off to the police station for questioning. And I don't remember any of us really being concerned about that in particular. I don't know, it was just, it was at that moment, it was like nothing was surprising anymore.
But it wasn't a pre-planned thing. That's the thing, because nobody knew what Jackson was going to do. So it wasn't a publicity
stunt.
Well,
we did know because we were performing on the show as well. So
we've
been there the whole day and seen all the run-throughs and everything.
Right.
So we did know what his performance was, and I guess Jarvis must have been thinking about this throughout.
He was generally annoyed and angry about him.
Yeah, but it was Candida that said, like, well, you know, if you're not happy, why don't you do something about it?
Whoa!
Which, you know, you all
aiding
know what
and
he
abetting Candida.
Yeah, and so he went off to the police station. We all went to the after-show party. It wasn't that good. I didn't stay very long. And then the next day, we were scheduled to start a tour in Brighton. And obviously we wake up.
All over
Where's
the papers.
Jarvis? Well, yeah, but Jarvis is still at the police station and is all over the papers, wearing his diesel coat that they'd given him not long before. Excellent publicity. And so we all go off, do the sound check in Brighton, and you know, there's a few hours when we don't know whether or not the show will happen, but he was indeed released, and we did the tour. Yeah, and then the public tide of opinion changed, and everything was fine. But then, like, everybody in the country suddenly knows who Jarvis is, and you know, he can't get in a taxi without the driver, like, what you did with Michael Jackson, he deserved it, didn't he?
Most people
you know,
sort of agree with him,
that,
yeah.
And then there's photographers outside his house.
Oh, right.
You know, that changes things.
Yeah, we might come back onto that and fame. But you said you told your careers officer at school that you wanted to be a pop star. So after different class, did you feel that you were a pop star, Mark?
Well, I suppose. I don't know. But it just, you know, I'm much the same person, I think. Maybe I guess I did change a bit, but I hopefully didn't become unpleasant.
I'm sure you know.
I probably did for a period.
But it's an interesting transformation, isn't it? When
I don't know, but then, you know, at that time there was like so much going on. There was no like time to sort of reflect on. Yeah,
because you're so busy doing stuff.
Yeah.
So the follow-up, this is hardcore. Did you feel a bit of pressure then to follow up such a successful album?
In some ways, yes. But as Russell would say, in some ways, no. There was commercial pressure. You know, the record company expected, you know, that we were like the goose that laid the golden egg or whatever, and that we could keep on laying. And we turned out we didn't want to. So we were constipated for a while. Yeah,
but that, you don't want to be told how to do it and when to do it, I imagine.
Well, yeah, I guess no one told us how, but they just expected that whatever we came up with next would be similarly embraced by the public at large. And because of experiences like the Brit Awards, I guess Jarvis had a different outlook on life, and so...
In what way?
Well, realising that this thing that he'd aspired for all his life, now he was there, and it had brought a whole heap of other problems. Not that it wasn't as great as he imagined, but it wasn't as straightforward as he imagined. And there was all these other things that go along with that were not so great.
Press attention.
Yeah, like press attention.
Paparazzi.
The fans.
Common people.
Yeah, the expectation, the demands for all kinds of stuff, yeah.
So were you happy with the direction of the way the music went with This Is Hardcore?
Well, in some ways yes, and in some ways no.
Well, hey, nice impartial balance.
Well, Russell left the group, and so that left a lot more space for me to be myself. I feel like, looking back on it now, like what I did on Different Class was sort of me doing what I thought was pulpy or like appropriate to Pulp, and whereas This Is Hardcore is more like doing the things that I was more into, I guess. And so the music did change a bit and became in some ways more conventional. Most of the music that I like is you sort of, if we were to talk in categories like Britpop, you know, classic rock or something like that, I don't know, traditional song forms, bands, 2 guitars, bass, drums, and so Pulp music became a bit more like that, less unusual. But then also there was Steve got into technology very early on, and I started like exploring sampling and things like that, and that's how the song This Is Hardcore came about. And at the time I was not a supporter of that way of working. I thought, we've got enough ideas. We don't need to base our songs on someone else's songs. So I was sort of dead against it and kind of hated it. But
that's what happened on some of the songs, yeah?
Yeah, and you know, being in a group is sort of a democracy, and you sort of compromise. You have to compromise, or you leave.
Yeah.
Which I never managed to do.
Okay.
As I became more and more disgruntled with some things, but kind of always hung in there, hoping that the tide would turn.
Went to number 1 though, didn't it?
Yeah, because it's good.
Yeah. But despite your sort of misgivings.
Yeah. I did some like interviews when the album came out where I would say things like, you know, I think it's great, but there's like a third of the songs I don't think should be on it, and things like this.
What did the other band members say, or didn't they hear or read those?
Pardon?
What did the other band
Well, they asked me to stop doing interviews. Which was fine for me.
Then We Love Life, 2001, you didn't use Chris Thomas as the producer, you went to, Scott Walker.
That's right, yeah.
Tell us about that. What happened to Chris Thomas then? Was he not available, or you felt like the change?
Well, we'd done these 2 records with Chris, which we loved, but which had cost a phenomenal amount of money, and had This Is Hardcore probably took 10 or 11 months from the start to the end. Not like every day in the studio, but a lot of it. And we just wanted another way of working. And so we talked to Chris about this, and he was interested in trying it a different way. And we thought, well, the opposite of that is like just to have us all in a room playing live essentially, and try and get as much recorded live as we could, just in a nice sounding room. And I mean, as I said earlier, we were not that good musicians, so we just couldn't really do that at that point. And we started to record some songs with Chris, did about 6, and it was we could see that it was heading the same way as the other albums, and so we just had to like scrap that. Heading
the same way in what? Sounding similar?
No, that it would, you know, that there'd be a million overdubs, and that it would take 6 to 12 months.
Oh, right.
And cost a fortune. So we went off and started to look around for producers, wrote loads of songs, and then somehow the idea came up of asking Scott Walker if he'd be interested, which seemed like a strange idea to me because he was like always one of Jarvis's heroes, And so I found it strange that he would want to go into that situation.
Because he, with the Walker Brothers, had big hits in the 60s, then he went solo. He then went into a pretty avant-garde phase with his albums. There was an amazing promenade concert that they did of his work a few years ago.
Yeah, his 5 solo albums, Jarvis completely loves. Has all the time I've known him. And then Scott kind of went off. I don't know what he did. But then he came back. At the time we were recording Different Class, and released this album, Tilt, which was very unusual and abrasive experimental music. And I remember Steve or Jarvis buying it and playing it in the lounge of the studio, and like no one understanding what the hell was going on. And but then I forgot what your question was, but someone thought it would be a good idea to ask him.
Yeah.
Jeff, our manager, vaguely knew Scott's manager, he wasn't a music business person, he was like a literary agent or something. And the word came back that he was interested.
You didn't really interact much with him, you say in your book.
Well, I was like the one person in the group that didn't really like his records. So although I knew he was like a sort of legendary person, I didn't have that. He was just a person producing our record to me, and he had good ideas. But the process of like writing and recording that album, we were like 3 years into it by the time we started re-recording it with Scott, and I just sort of lost interest. And so I would just go and do my parts and not really hang around.
Was some of the starting point, Mark, where each member of the band brought in 2 pieces to act as a springboard to ideas, and you brought in Fleetwood Mac and Pink Floyd?
That's right. Yeah, it was an idea, because like I said, we wrote so many songs for that album, and a lot of them are really good and never got recorded. But we would, try different. Obviously, we've been working with each other for such a long time by that point. It's actually only like 5 years or something, but it felt like forever. And we would try like buying different instruments or, effects to try and spark new ideas. I had hired like a vibraphone for a few weeks. Had that in the studio. Was trying to write songs around the vibraphone.
What is that exactly?
It's like like the modern jazz quartet. It's like a big xylophone with like sustain pedal, metal on metal. None of those songs came to anything. But one idea was, so what about everybody brings in tomorrow 2 pieces of music, and we listen to them and try and write something in that vein, or
what was your Fleetwood Mac and Pink Floyd songs?
I think the Fleetwood Mac one is called something like The Other Side of Heaven. It's an instrumental from the Bare Trees album. I just started getting into sort of middle of the road progressive rock. and
Floyd?
The Pink Floyd one was, what's it called, One of These Days? Is it from Metal?
I think so.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So what do you make of it now then? We Love
that
Life.
Album. I think it's really good. I mean, it's a shame that, by the time it came out, we were sort of losing interest in the group, I guess.
Was that sort of because of burnout, something like that, working very hard, in a sustained way?
Yeah, I guess it was like the public had moved on. We were not as popular as we had been. And we didn't have any, we didn't want to be like one of those groups always striving to, like, the next one will be a hit. That just didn't concern us at all. And we didn't want to just keep being in a band because it was a business, because we had business interests. That would be miserable. So, I don't know, it just felt like it was like the end of a cycle, and we were approaching it. The record came out, didn't have a lot of publicity. We didn't really try and publicize it ourselves. The record company didn't do much.
What's
It
number
just kind
6,
of-
I think, in the album chart there. Maybe it was for a week or two.
Maybe just for a week, I don't know. But yeah, but it has got some really good songs on it, and it's a nice record to listen to. So it's a shame it sort of gets overlooked.
So you didn't have a meeting and say, well, that's it, guys, or we're going to take a break or whatever?
Not exactly like that, because we just don't really communicate with each other at all.
Yeah?
What happened? Well, that record came out, we did concerts, we did some really good concerts around that period. And then it was somehow decided. In Nick's book, I think he says that Jeff, the manager, rang him up and said something like, well, Jarvis thinks that he wants to do something else or something, and that the group's going to stop for a while or whatever. And so we decided to do one more concert, and this was this concert that was called Auto. It was sort of a one-day festival in a former, was it a steelworks? I don't know, but now it's like a science park in Rotherham, just outside Sheffield. And that was December 2002, I think. And we knew that was going to be our last concert, but at the end of the night, no one really sort of talked about it. There was no hugging. We just all got into taxis and went different places.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really really strange ending.
You obviously went off and did film work, which is a little bit mentioned in the book, but you had plenty of royalties coming. You didn't think, well, how am I going to pay the bills or anything like that? Because you'd had enough success at that point.
Yeah, not at that point, because, we didn't make as much money as people might imagine, because we spent so much money recording the records, doing the concerts, making the videos or whatever. But we'd made enough money, when we were recording This Is Hardcore, I bought my house. And I was 27 years old and paid off the mortgage within 6 months. So I had that and some royalties and some savings. So I didn't have to worry that much. So I was able to indulge myself programming avant-garde film for 10, 20 years.
So did you stay in contact by texting or whatever, during that intervening period?
Don't think we had phones in that period. There was some contact at first, because there were business things that we had to deal with. But then we didn't. I guess Jarvis and Steve saw quite a fair bit of each other. But the rest of us didn't really hang out with each other anymore. It was just kind of normal.
Normal, yeah, but you didn't fall out. It was just that's how it was.
We just had, we've been living in each other's pockets for a long time. Had loads of mainly good experiences together, and we just needed to go off and have a life.
This is 2002, roughly.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, you got back together, didn't you, for some concerts?
Yeah.
What was that like, and who sort of who instigated that?
Well, after 2002, when the group sort of stopped, I just kind of had to get as far away from anything to do with music as possible. I didn't even listen to music anymore. I just listened to talk radio. And I didn't have any instruments in my house. I didn't follow what was happening with music. And whenever people, you good people here, if people would come up to me and say, oh, I really love Pulp, I just didn't know what to say to them. I just couldn't relate to them. And two of them, I was really unpleasant unnecessarily too. This hangs on my conscience.
Did you get recognised though in the street by then?
Well,
you
by
must
that
have done.
point, not so much. But it would every so often it would come up. When I was doing my film things, I wasn't going out as Mark from Pulp.
No,
I was just Mark Webber and tried not to let people know about my other life. I just had to get away from it. And so if the idea of reforming the group had have come up any earlier than it did, I might have probably not wanted to do it. But by the time the idea did come up, Well, Jarvis rang me and said, you know, that there was this interest in the group doing some concerts, and that finally he thought, well, maybe it would be a good idea. He'd made a couple of solo records. One of the guys in his band had died suddenly, like he had an accident and fell and died. And so I guess this made Jarvis a bit aware of his mortality and think, well, maybe the way Pulp ended wasn't the best, and maybe we should do something about that and celebrate it a bit. But the weird thing was, a few months before Jarvis rang me, Russell rang me, which I hadn't spoken to Russell at that point probably since 12 years or something. And he rang me, and it was just a really weird conversation. He said that he was writing a play, and did I remember the guy Dids, who was the other guy who ran Planet X Records with Henry Normal. Did I remember him, or was I in touch with him? Because he's writing a play, and one of the characters is from Leamington Spa, like that guy, and he wanted to get like the subtle nuances of his accent or something for this play he was writing. And this just was all like, I just found this really weird, but I just thought, well, you know, that is Russell. He's pretty strange and off the wall. And then a couple of months later, Jarvis rang me and said this, and that he wanted to include Russell because he felt that if Pulp was to reform, it should be like the classic lineup that people loved the most or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I guess probably I was the last one to be asked, and that Russell had already been asked those few months before, and was trying to do, you know, get his head around what it would be like to be with us all again or whatever.
What was it like when you all got together for the first time?
It was strange. And the first time the six of us got together was in a rehearsal room with all the instruments.
You put yours in storage, by the way, had you, before you visited that?
At that point, I didn't know or care where my instruments were. They had been left in the band storage, and I guess I just didn't want to deal with it. And so Jarvis had been using some of them on his solo records and tours. And some stuff went missing and other stuff turned up.
But you quickly got back into it in that rehearsal room, yeah? It all came back?
Well, we just played a song, and it was like, you know, it was rough, but it was just really obvious that there was something special that happened with the 5 or 6 of us, and that this was could be a good thing. And it was great. We did 50 shows in 2 years. Russell did most of the first year. And people seemed really happy to see us, and we were playing much bigger concerts than we had previously. And we'd all gone off, had a life, grown up. We're a lot more understanding and accepting of each other. And it was just a nice experience.
Fantastic. Because I was going to say, when the focus is mainly on the singer in a band, and I suppose it always has been in a sense, do the other band members mind about that, or you just have to accept it?
It just comes with the territory, doesn't it? I mean, you know, it's the good side of it is that he takes all the attention, and I can just have a normal life. Which is fine.
So you said he became a national treasure. At what point might that have happened, do you think?
I don't know. It was somewhere in there.
He was a radio presenter on Six Music, wasn't he, for a while too?
Yeah, he did that for, I don't know, at least 3 years. And I think he was doing that around the time when we did those concerts. And yeah, I guess it was around that time he got the national treasure status.
I guess that. So is he a complex character? You know,
we all are.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but he's himself, isn't he? As well, which is great. That's all he can be.
I guess in the intervening 10 years, like between that reunion, which was a sort of a very democratic process, pretty much. And now he's become more Jarvis Cocker in some way. I don't know. Now I think he's more assumed the position of like the leader and prefers to just do things himself rather than asking anyone else's opinion.
Right. So there's an alter ego, a bit like Bowie.
Not really an alter ego. It's just that he's gone off and had another life, and his personality has developed and changed a little bit, and now
More extrovert or more
more. Oh, I had the word a second. More confident, I guess. More confident. Maybe believing the bullshit that people tell him. I don't know. Believing his own hype. I don't know. Just more confident in making decisions, whereas before he would be more interested in everyone else's opinion.
And the music business, it can kind of treat you, I suppose, as being a commodity. You're their product, although you're the people who originated it in the first place and came up with all the creative content. How do you sort of feel about that when record companies put pressure on you to deliver and want more, maybe, and more and more?
Well, I guess at the time, like in the 90s, we resented it and just thought, just did what we wanted, basically.
Because if you were starting out again now, you might, you launch your own label or you just issue stuff yourself.
Exactly, yeah. I guess when we did this album last year, which came out this year, the industry has like changed so much. We just didn't really know. Well, I guess one thing that we talked about is like, well, we were not making the record for it to be successful or whatever, but we didn't understand what the measure of a successful record would be these days, because it's no longer in hundreds of thousands of units sold. And so it was just a completely different world. And when we decided to do it, we didn't have a record label. And so we just asked Rough Trade, who were our managers, if they wanted to release it. And they did. And we had a small budget, smaller than the video for This Is Hardcore was in 1998.
Really? Yeah.
And so we had to do it cheaply and quickly, and somehow found a way. And it turned out, ironically, that by now we were somehow better musicians by not having done it for such a long time. And so a lot of it was done in a room together with everyone playing at the same time.
And I don't think Jarvis wrote any of the music. Not in the credits I've seen. You all did it yourselves.
Well, the music's credited jointly, yeah, like it always was, but there was more occasions with this one where he already had songs pretty much formed before. I mean, he had like a backlog of songs, basically, because he'd not made a record for a long time. And so a lot of the songs were pretty much formed before he brought them to us, and together we shaped them and got the structures and added our own little bits to them.
Got to number one, and it's up for another Mercury Music Prize. It's been nominated again, you are.
It is, and that's what we'll be doing on Thursday. Yeah, we're playing at the ceremony in Newcastle.
Is that when the prize is going to be announced?
It is at 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Thursday evening.
So we could see you on the 10 o'clock news. They normally do that with the winners.
Yeah, I guess the thing is televised, but I don't know if it's going out that evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is announced at 10 o'clock that evening. I mean, I don't think any of us entertain any fantasy that we might win it again.
You don't?
Well, as my wife says, it wouldn't be a great look for the music industry if it was to say that this like record by these old farts that haven't done anything for 20 years is the best thing going on.
Well, it depends what measure you're and criteria,
Well, I don't know what criteria they judge
You
it
might
on,
be fed up with it, Charlie X. I was going to say XTC, Charlie XCX.
Showing your age there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't
etc.
know.
Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Dean, Olivia Rodriguez. Taylor
Yeah, well,
Swift.
they're not English, so
No,
they're not.
no, I know,
Fortunately,
but
we're not battling.
We're in that
those
same,
giants.
music is sounding a bit the same at that sort of top 40 level or downloading level,
Yeah, but they've got the folk guy and the jazz guy. The Mercury's like to mix it up.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's more worthy winners than us. Let's say
So
that.
what's the recent set of gigs been like, Mark? I think you say in the book that you're just happy to play the songs, but Jarvis thinks differently. He always wants it to be spectacular.
Yeah, well, like I said, they always wanted to put on a show, but now there is the budget to like really go for it, and so you wanted a string section. So we started out with 8 string players. On the UK shows this year, there were 10. Maybe another time there'll be more. The screens get bigger, the band gets bigger. So it costs a phenomenal amount to put on a Pulp show. For the shows that maybe some of you saw, like at the O2 and the other arena shows, we had 9 articulated trucks. It's just ridiculous. Maybe 100 people working on them.
Mm-hmm. But you pulled it off.
But the concerts were really fantastic. Yeah.
And then you went to.
And some of them were filmed, and there'll be a film next year.
Oh, great!
A sort of a concert film with other stuff in it.
You went to Mexico, Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile. You got very ill, didn't you?
I did, but I don't know if we need to get into that.
Okay.
What time is it now?
Yeah, you spent a month in bed when you got back, I think, from Hong Kong. Yeah, it's
there were like 3 days when I couldn't get out of bed. But,
yeah.
Well, you have to read the book if you need
to. So, you recorded the More album pretty quickly, and you like Slow Jam, Farmer's Market, and My Sex, I think, among the others. I mean, how do they rate compared to the mid-90s songs?
I think that, they're just different. I mean, they're all our children. We love them all. But they're different. I don't know. What was really good was to, write songs again, or be involved in writing songs again. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, sometimes I mess around at home, but I don't actually work at it. I expect it to come to anything. But to actually have a project where we were doing that again was great. I mean, maybe in some ways, let's say one of the more enjoyable things of the last few years.
And
I always liked the writing. And then the recording is sort of also exciting because you try loads of different things, but can get a bit frustrating. But then when you then go out on tour, and like you say, you're playing them dozens and dozens of times, and Jarvis is a bit boring and he wants it to be usually like the record, whereas I would rather have a freer reign. Mm-hmm. And so that does get a bit dull.
Okay. But you're going out on tour next year.
But yeah, the concerts have been really fantastic, and it's nice to play some different songs, and we've been playing some more obscure old ones that we haven't played for a long time.
You've got a big canon, really, in a sense now, haven't you? 8 albums, but and obviously different singles that weren't on albums, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
I still think that the first one, there's some lovely songs on that.
Yeah, we did play My Lighthouse in 2012,
particularly that one. But
we haven't attempted any hit songs the last few years.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Will you give a big round of applause on that note to Mark Webber, who's been incredibly generous with his time, and I think incredibly open and honest and frank with a lot of your answers, Mark. I wondered if they've got time for some questions from you. It would be nice to hear. Just put your hand up and I'll try and come to you. All right, if you've got any questions. We didn't talk about too many individual songs, more. Yeah, go ahead, guy at the back, in the middle there. Yeah, in blue.
Songs that didn't get onto We Love Life, you said there was a lot. Will they be released at all?
This is the question that gets asked every time.
You said that most of them weren't recorded, I think.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, I would like to think so. Or some of them were not recorded in a studio. A lot of them were demoed to a decent standard and could be released. When Universal, who like bought Island or absorbed Island, when they reissued like some CDs, double CDs of the other albums, deluxe editions some years ago, they didn't even want to do Wheel of Life because they thought it was like not commercially viable. So that would have been an opportunity for some of those songs to get released. It's something I would like to do. We've never had, I don't know what Jarvis feels about it. Generally, he doesn't like to issue unreleased things, but he also has done that quite a few times. A couple of the songs we have since re-recorded. We did After You in 2012. That was from those sessions. Got to Have Love is from that period. It's on More. So hopefully, but there's not any plans to do it at the moment.
Put your hands up again. Yeah, guy on the right. Yeah, hi.
Being greedy, 2 questions. Wet Leg supported you at Finsbury Park. Who decides kind of who you want to be the support acts?
Not me. I guess even like traditionally, Jarvis has often decided who would support us, like when we would go on tour, like a lot of dreadful bands, like I guess Minty is one that some will remember in this room. Interesting but dreadful. So it's mostly, I mean, Pulp are basically managed by Jeanette Lee. Jeanette has been Jarvis's manager since well, she was Pulp's manager first, but managed Jarvis throughout all his solo stuff. So it's mainly those kind of decisions those two make.
And your second question?
He's kind of answered it, but he's got not involved, but yeah, under the recent Open there was no support. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I guess with that, well, when the tickets went on sale, it seemed to be going really well, and so we didn't feel the need for a support in that sense. And then I guess we thought, well, maybe that could be a good thing, and it would be like a whole Pulp night. And then the idea came up of us doing 2 separate sets with an intermission, and that worked well for us. I don't know about the audience, sure. But that was kind of a nice way to do that kind of thing.
Any more? Yeah.
Patchwork.
Yes.
I've always wondered what does that patchwork actually mean?
The source of the name that was used for the Glastonbury appearance. It was Candida's suggestion, and it was when we got together this time around to rehearse for those first concerts in 23. We did the first couple of rehearsals like just in a room, but then when we moved into like a commercial rehearsal space, we needed like a pseudonym, because it wasn't yet known that Pulp would be doing anything. And so now we do have a WhatsApp group. and like the question was thrown out, like who has some ideas for the pseudonym, and Candida said Patchwork. And so then when we needed a name for Glastonbury, it was sort of the obvious one.
Okay. Did you know that the Red Arrows were going to go over at the time? Or was
No, didn't know, and didn't know until like a few hours afterwards when I saw it online.
Yeah, in the front row, and I'll come to you behind in a minute.
You talked about all of the things that you've kept over the years, and I'm sure like other band members have as well. With the film coming out next year, any chance of Sheffield Museum putting on a bit of a bigger exhibition?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Nick, when the fan club finished, when the band stopped in 2002, all of the stuff that was kept was stored in Nick's basement. And then last year he decided he finally wanted to get rid of it. And so he donated it to Sheffield Museums and Archives. But that's basically mainly fan club stuff. And they did have an intention of, when I last spoke to them, which is a long time ago, of doing some kind of display. But I think it's just like a section in the sort of local history sort of museum. I don't think they're considering an exhibition. Meanwhile, I did the book and now don't feel the need to keep all of that stuff anymore. So I've been trying to donate it somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure they'll take it.
Maybe you could auction it for like charities like.
Well, maybe. I mean, I think if I can't give it to a decent institution, I'll just give it to someone, maybe.
Behind you, I'm conscious it's almost 20 to 10 and Mike might do some autographs and he's got to catch a train at 10:20. Go ahead.
Oh, what time did you say it was?
It's 20 to, almost, it's
Oh, okay.
9:36.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes.
I saw you were playing the old style of fun, the 350s, the two pens.
Yep.
How do you manage with the old technology? Is that still the old style of fun that you used on space and everything?
It is the original. I mean, I think we have two. We might have three, but they're basically the original. Candida's Farfisa is the original one from, I don't know if it appeared on it, but they've been playing it since '84. So yeah, there's a lot of, I guess this time around we made more of an attempt to incorporate some of the original technology, I guess, in with the new stuff. Plus there's like, computers and things that none of us in the band would actually know how to operate.
A couple more, I think I saw a couple. Well, right at the back, yeah, go ahead.
Who have you been listening to recently? Who kind of bands you recommend?
Yeah, well, like I said, after the group sort of stopped, I completely disassociated from music and slowly started to listen again to the things that I always loved, which is David Bowie, Beach Boys, Velvet Underground, etc. But then in the last 3-4 years, I've started to listen to contemporary music again. And the band that I really got excited about when I discovered them, sometime after they had appeared and became known, was Big Thief. I really, really love them. And then the other band, if I have two favourite bands from the last few years, the other band is Bleachers, which is the band of Jack Antonoff, who is better known as a producer for producing Taylor Swift and Sabrina and other people. And I guess the way I found him was because I now have a child, and she liked Taylor for a while but soon moved on. And,
Interesting, yeah. How old is she?
She's 12. She dumped Taylor for Olivia Rodrigo, who's much better.
I thought she was great at Glasgow, what I saw.
She is great, yeah. Yeah, we stayed to watch her. So, I don't know, through her I get to listen to some pop music, and I do like some of Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter. But mainly, the way I've been discovering most new music the last few years is through Spotify's algorithms that many people
they do a thing every week called New Music Friday UK.
Yeah, not that, but when you listen to an album and you want it to stop, but it just keeps playing things that it thinks are similar. Through that, I've discovered so many acts that I like, and some of those are Allegra Krieger, Katie Kirby, Sun June, Hayley Hendricks. Maybe that was how I found Geese. I don't know. A lot of American singer-songwriters.
Great answer. Thank you for that question. One more if there's... somebody has not asked one. Is there any more? Yeah, sorry.
It's such a quick one. What was the geese earworm you said?
Sorry?
You said you had...
Oh, the geese earworm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Taxes. Yeah, very, very good song.
One final thing. Can music change the world?
How long have you got?
Well, I interviewed Graham Nash about 10 days ago. He's in the UK right now. He's 83. He was with the Hollies, and then, of course, as you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and then Young, blah. I really admire him as a songwriter, and I saw him live 9 years ago, and he was still very good. I've got no doubt that he will be very good on this tour, but sadly I can't go. And he said, I still believe that music can change the world. Well, he wrote that in a lyric in 1971 in the song called Chicago, and then music can change the world. But I stupidly didn't ask him the follow-up, how can it change the world? Because he could argue it hasn't.
I don't know. I guess my instant response to that, I mean, it can improve or enhance people's experience of the world, at least.
And also a communal thing at gigs, and also listening to records as a teenager and relating to all the kind of angst and all the self-doubt and all the observations that Jarvis has made and you have made in all of these songs. I just find that so fascinating. To just look on Spotify, the lyrics, it brings it all to life. You don't get lyric sheets with streaming, but you can on that particular platform, I think. Yeah. I used to love looking at lyrics, when we had vinyl and all that. Well, look, we do have to wrap it up there. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. You've been brilliant, Mark. Please give a wonderful round of applause for Mark Webber. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.